I want to talk about today is being fully present. You know, in our work, we have a lot of clients that we work with, and it's important for us to be fully present, and quite often they talk about needing to be fully present. So I want to talk to you about, for you, how do you get yourself fully present?
So that's a great question, and definitely applicable both to myself personally and for sure to the leaders that I work with in my coaching and consulting work. I think nowadays, in the world of constant distractions, to-dos, demands, moving parts, it's very difficult to keep present and truly be available and in the moment. I think part of it's the society and the culture we live in today. I think part of it is just the way our brains are wired. You know, we're forever looking back to kind of try and learn from the mistakes of the past, or looking forward to see, you know, what's the bump that's up ahead and how do we brace ourselves and stay careful and safe. So to some extent, we're kind of fighting our brain's natural, you know, wiring to try to stay in the moment. That said, there are a lot of ways to do it so that you can make sure that you are getting the most out of the time that you have with others, and that you are not constantly in a state of anxiety and stress, worrying about what's just around the corner. So when I'm going into a meeting with a colleague or a client, or even just sitting down with family, you know, often what I'll do is, if I'm coming from a place of feeling rushed or stressed or hectic, I'll take a little time just to kind of calm down and prepare myself for being in that conversation. So sometimes that means just going in my office and shutting the door and resisting the temptation to look at email, not picking up the phone, not shooting a last-minute text, not checking tomorrow's weather, any of that. Just being quiet for a few minutes. And that doesn't mean the brain shuts down and goes blank. That's not the way we operate. But just to kind of let the thoughts go through and be all right with that. If there's an important meeting I have coming up, a presentation or a conversation that I really need to be prepared for, I make sure I've taken the time to be prepared. So I don't go in with any extra layers of stress or worry or disorganization. And then once you go, and you sit down with whomever, engaging in an activity, you have to remind yourself, okay, this is where I am right now. It might sound sort of silly in a way, but we are very rarely where we are. You know, there's a very famous book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And you really have to remind yourself of that. Like right now, I'm here, I'm having this conversation with you. I'm not, thinking about Thanksgiving, which is a few days away. Oh, I guess I was for a moment there. I'll have to remind myself. I'll think about that when I need to think about that. Or about a conversation that I had with a client 2 days ago. Right now, I'm right here and we're having this conversation. Sometimes in that moment, we have to remind ourselves so that we don't slip forward or slip backwards. I think that's really the key. I think to notice when we're starting to get distracted or pulled away, resisting the external distractions. So I hear this all the time from my clients, that they'll go in and they'll try to speak with a colleague or a direct report, or more often a boss, who is sort of listening, but also tapping away on their keyboard, or their phones are pinging, or whatever may be happening, that they really don't feel that the person's engaged with them and truly they're listening to what they have to say. So sometimes it's about shutting down the electronics, looking away, turning things on silent, and making sure when you're with that other individual, truly giving them your full and focused attention. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of my tricks to being in the moment.
I really appreciate you sharing that. So a lot of this is around distractions and trying to eliminate distractions, is what I'm hearing you say. Okay.
Yes.
You also mentioned about sort of being there with them, and I was reminded of pace, like, go fast, go slow. How do you decide, what's the pace or where you have to be when you're fully present?
To some extent I base that on the person that I'm with. So I think being able to read the style of the person that you're interacting with, or the situation that you're in. I mean, clearly there are some situations that call for a fast pace and quick action and thinking on your feet and not taking a whole lot of time to analyze and just go. You just have to go. At other times, slow, thoughtful reflection is absolutely essential to being in the moment, to hearing the person that you're speaking with, to making good sound decisions. I think that's the part that most people struggle with, is the slowing down the pace. We are in a very fast-moving society, and business is all about get more done, get it quickly. Zoom. I think if there's a key takeaway is that slowing down actually often leads to a much better result than zooming through things very quickly.
Great. So I heard you talk about, depending on the client, is the pace at which you need to go. So often it's slowing down because we're in a fast-paced world.
Yes.
But if you're in a situation where the client is fast-paced, you can still be fully present and go quicker. Right?
Absolutely. I think reading, whether it's your client or whomever you're with, reading them, of course you're true to yourself. You're not going to completely change your style. But to be adaptive and responsive to the person that you're interacting with is very important. And that way you kind of can even find a way to find a mutual pace that works reasonably well for both of you.
Yeah. And what have you found specifically the benefits for you when you are fully present and fully attentive in terms of the quality of the interaction?
The quality is far better. It's far better. When we allow ourselves to be internally distracted or externally distracted, it's almost impossible to take in everything that you're hearing. It's very difficult to even hear yourself think because there's too much clutter going on internally. So the quality and the outcome of whether it's a conversation, a meeting, or trying to get some work done, it's all better when you allow yourself and sometimes kind of force yourself to be there in that moment.
Great. Well, listen, Liz, thanks very much for sharing that with us today. And for those of you who are watching or listening today, I hope you were fully present to hear what Liz had to say.